What's up, guys? Welcome back to the best podcast. I'm your host, Eric Russler. Today, we've got Scott James Part 2. We sat down originally and had, a really long, almost 3-hour conversation. But like I said, I pulled some of the best parts I thought out of it. Again, you're going to hear him mention some shows, and you might think, Eric, those shows and dates have already come and gone. Yes, they have. Unfortunately, the shows got canceled due to unforeseen circumstances, but just know, had they happened, they would have been fantastic. But we had a great time, and Scott's a great buddy of mine. He's a great comic. Make sure you check him out on all his social media. So enjoy Scott James Part 2. Speaking of which, did you know, I found this out the other day. The whole reason the chainsaw was invented was to help with childbirth. They thought, if we get this chain, if we get a chain of rings.
Oh my God, she's crowning, but she's having a hard time.
Yeah, this will be less painful. And so they were like, oh, this is...
But a chainsaw?
A chainsaw.
Did they not have sharp knives?
They did, but they were like, oh, well, this will be much faster. And if it's faster, it will hurt less. And that was their whole mindset. And then it was like, I think they must have used it several times.
Having seen a chainsaw injury,
yeah,
I got to imagine it didn't make it out of the testing phase.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. My favorite historical thing is when women were hysterical. And they would go to the doctor, and the doctor, that's how vibrators were invented.
Yeah.
They would be like, "Oh, the problem is," and I'm sure, who knows at the time if it was you can't argue with results.
Yeah.
Every woman that comes in and is like, "Hey, man, every husband that brings her his wife in there with a bodice on, and shit like that, is like, she's hysterical, doctor. You need to." Got all these opinions and whatnot.
She's got opinions. She's got thoughts and feelings. And if you could stop that, that would be great.
And the doctor's like,
yeah,
you know what?
I think we can.
Medical science has come a long ways.
Yes.
And I think I can help her.
We've discovered a lot of things about the human body.
And how many times after that first time was this woman like, ooh, I'm hysterical again.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I'm so mad at you.
I might have to go see the doctor.
I want to vote so bad. And the husband's like, look, we'll be back to the doctor with you.
Doctor, are you available for house calls? My wife is out of her mind. She wants to vote. He'd be like, I'll be right there. What's I wrote this one down. I haven't made a slide for it yet. But what was the best thing that your kid was into that you also got into?
Studio Ghibli movies.
Studio Ghibli?
You know what that is? It's anime, but it's not. We recently, my son and I, had this conversation about anime, and why it's so good. And you know why it's good? And for that same era when anime cartoons kind of reached the States.
Is Studio Ghibli the one that did Totoro and
Ponyo,
Princess Mononoke?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, love those.
The last 2 or 3 were so goddamn good, and they're just good. But to be to make that shit happen in live action, is impossible.
Right.
If you ever got into anime and Akira or Ninja Scroll or Ghost in the Shell, and all these they're not some of them are pretty fantastical and whatever, but there are some of them that are just movies.
Right.
They're just movies, and maybe they've got a sci-fi element or a fantasy element to them that now it look like a Marvel movie or whatever. Now we kind of have the technology to make shit like that happen.
But at the time,
these were made in the 70s and 80s and early 90s and shit like that, where it's they were just my imagination is the technology and what is involved to bring my imagination to the screen is it can't be contained. So what's the only avenue to get for this vision to get out is to make it animated and make the art and the animation so artfully executed and so
Uh-huh.
well done. And that's definitely where Studio Ghibli is. And it's amazing. And so that's like something that he got into, and I would watch, and I thought it was like maybe kid movies or whatever. I'd never
Yeah.
seen Ponyo. I had heard about it, and I was like, who are all these like celebrities doing voiceover for an anime?
Yeah.
And they're really good, really really good. The Wind Rises, I think, is the last one that Hayao Miyazaki, the guy that
He
started
did it before he
Yeah,
died, right? Yeah.
I don't know. Is he dead?
I thought he died, or maybe he just retired.
That's sort of that's one of those weird things. God, I can make this happen. My son wants to go to Japan, and I want to go to Japan too. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things, like for his college graduation, that would be an awesome gift, is like to go to Japan and visit the Studio Ghibli, the actual studio.
Yeah.
Because I think they do. You know, you can
Walkthroughs
take
and
a
stuff like
tour.
that. Yeah, yeah.
And the main guy, Hayao Miyazaki, I think he's retired twice.
Okay, let's hope he's retired.
Fucking A, man.
I did not mean to put that on you. I hope you don't die. I really, yeah.
He
I
also
love his-
interviews with them. Interviews with Hayao Miyazaki, the guy that started Studio Ghibli, and he's got that imagine like the interviews with him, and it's in Japanese, and you're reading
Right.
what he's saying. I have the same, like, I mean, I'm a softie anyway. I cry at shit. And
yeah.
I get teared up for the same way if you've seen the movie or you've seen the documentary about Bill Withers, Still Bill. He's the guy that wrote "Lean on Me" and "Grandma's Hands."
I know Bill Withers. I've never
I'm
seen
a
the documentary.
huge fan of Bill Withers, and God damn it, man, the documentary about him, Still Bill, and Hayao Miyazaki, the interviews with him, they have the same vibe to him. Whereas, like, this is such a gentle soul, and a person that just I tear up thinking about, especially thinking about Bill Withers being dead.
Yeah.
Because I've had some weird life moments with Bill Withers music that it's maybe not even like something that directly applies like thematically or tonally to what I'm going through in life, but just gives me such a like, you know, a weird like joyous melancholy.
Yeah. I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about his music that just hits you in the right way, and you're like,
and a guy that
like,
also
I get it.
seems like just such a warm, gentle soul. Somebody
Yeah.
who has a pure, gentle spirit. Yeah, man. I think that's even more like, I think it's exceedingly rare. Even for people who write these like amazing, beautiful songs, like I've got like a collection of songs that I'm really like, this song I think means something to me, and I'll never look for an interview with the artist just in case they're a dick.
Oh man, that's that's. I do the exact same thing. I went. I was in Austin last year there was a group of comics. We took a road trip and spent like 4 days down there, running around doing open mics just to see what it's like. And Ben Johnson was with us, and we went to an art museum just to kill time.
Yeah, shout out to Ben Johnson, one of my favorite local comics.
Yeah.
God damn, he's good.
He's so funny. I don't know if you saw his clip the other day about
It pisses me off. It actually kind of upsets me because and also like unique to him.
Yeah, he's just.
There's a lot
just
of
him.
like comics coming up in St. Louis right now that it does get frustrating because I'm struggling to write funny stuff right now. I just am. I'm still writing. I'm still putting pen to paper. I'm still doing shit like that, but it's just not like funny ideas. Sometimes it's just whatever. But goddamn, Ben's always been one of those guys. Even when he first started, and he was maybe like didn't have as much traction as he does right now. He's starting to feature, and and rightly so. He was one of those guys. Pretty early on, everybody was like, "Oh, he's everybody's favorite comic." He's one of those types.
Uniquely him.
Yeah,
he's not anybody. He's not doing an impression of someone else. He's uniquely him. Which is what I enjoy.
Yeah,
because you can see a lot of comics that start out and they're doing an impression of their favorite comic.
Or an impression of how they thought they would be funny.
Exactly.
It's not always. I listen back to old sets.
Oh,
and
yeah.
not even sets that are that I was working. that's how not old the sets are.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't like, oh, this is within my first couple weeks. It's like, no, I've got like stuff that I thought was like, yeah, this is my best stuff. I want everybody to see it. I'm like, God, that's not how I talk. And you realize like you're doing an impression of how you thought. Maybe you're not even doing an impression of your favorite comic or whatever. You're doing what you have in your head is what like.
This is how I want the world to see me, and you're like, it's not you, But speaking of Ben, we were at an art museum, and I was looking at this painting, and it was just, abstract. It was just shapes and colors, and the canvas was huge. It was about the size of that wall, and I was just like, I was just kind of sitting there enjoying it, And he was like, "Oh, what, you like this one?" I was like, "Yeah, I like it a lot. I really like the colors and the shapes, and it's just kind of cool." And he's like, "Well, what's it about?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just like it." He goes, "Well, you got to read the plaque, man. You got to read what it's about." And I was like,
Does it root a little bit for
I
you?
just wanna look at it, He goes, no. He convinced me to go up, and I read it, and it said, "This is a representation of the rape of the Native American culture by the white man." And I was like, I was like, no, I hate it. And so I tell him all the time, like, hey, you remember that time we went to an art museum and you made me feel bad? Do you remember that? You remember that time you took a happy
ruined
feeling?
My favorite piece for me by making me know what it was really about?
Yeah. So I understand when you say, like, I don't want to listen to an interview with the artist because what if they say something that you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Like,
yeah, sometimes you find out, like, I have this problem with like bands where I find out like the band members don't actually like each other. I had this weird moment with like I was in bands, like I made music, and it was like, these are my buddies. I like these guys. We wouldn't stay in this band if we didn't like each other.
Yeah.
And then to find out, like, yeah, sometimes you're just some dude that, like, oh, so and so needs a bass player. Yeah, it's kind of shit, but hey, they're on tour right now.
I don't want to ruin anything for you, but I've heard some rumors about Fleetwood Mac, so I wouldn't don't dive too deep into that.
Yeah, it's a little dicey there. Yeah. Okay, but while we're talking about art and art museums, and I think this actually, like, the St. Louis Art Fair is going on right now, and whatever. I thought so. There's a local artist, and I think she won like Best in Show or something last year at the St. Louis Art Festival. Her name is Sarah Lorenz, Lorentz.
I've heard that name.
Follow her on Instagram. And there was a lot of art there at the art fest. It's one of those things, like, I can only window shop. Like, I'm that guy. Like, I love it. I wanted to buy all of it. But it's whatever. Well, she did. She started selling some prints of her work. So she's got this whole thing, this series, and it's just paintings of alleys around South City.
Mm-hmm.
And God, they're just, man, they're really, really good. And it really, really, like, struck a chord in me. And again, I think, it could be like whatever connection you have to the art could not even be about, like, because I have songs like that. I have movies like that. I have comedians like that.
Yeah.
And it could just be like, I associate this so much with where I was at in my life and whatever happy or sad or whatever the fuck I was. But her shit is just also really, really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's one of those, and she's local. She's local.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really, really good shit. And go to the St. Louis Art Fair, and most of them are, like, a lot of them are at least like, local to Missouri or whatever. There's really, really good stuff that if I this is a fun conversation to have if you won the lottery.
Yeah.
How would you lose it all? That's one of the ways I would definitely lose it.
Just yeah.
Eating at restaurants and tipping extravagantly.
I would be that person.
And buying art, or just like experiencing it all the time, and finding artists like that and being like, just knowing how hard it is and what the odds of success are. Especially if you like have a family, if you're somebody like me, or even you, who came into something like this where it's like I started doing comedy in my 30s, and at the time. I had a wife and a kid and a
Mm-hmm.
mortgage and health insurance and car payments and all that type of shit. I had big boy stuff. I'm a ways away from risking it all. And I was like, I was like the chief breadwinner.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of overhead to account for.
It's all. That's one of the things I talked about last night with one of my friends was that it's like that's where all of my anxiety comes from. Like all of it's just from being, you know, a dad and feeling like I have to be the provider or
Yeah.
like I have to. And like every time my kids are like, hey, we want to go here. And you're like, maybe next month.
It's a heavy.
And it's a restaurant. It's not like we want to go to Paris. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, we want to go to Outback Steakhouse.
There
and
are
it's like,
things that I get.
maybe.
I give my kid a lot of credit for not having expensive tastes.
Yeah.
And there are things in life like a lot of I know where a lot of my anxiety comes from. And it's he's in college.
Yeah.
College is expensive.
Yeah.
And nothing put a pit in my stomach more, or nothing made me feel like more of a loser than telling somebody how much it was going to cost me out of pocket, and me and my son, because he works and he's putting in. I mean, I put in as much as I can, but telling somebody how much it was going to cost me out of pocket for after his student loans, after his grants, after his scholarships, how much it was going to cost me, and have somebody go like, "Oh, that's not bad," and me
You're
going like, "It's crushing to me." It's literally like, I mean, if I had to tell you how much, but that's almost when it came down to this weird like, man, I think this is going to be a tough relationship to maintain. Because that's a lot of money to me.
Well, my daughter is about to be 16, so she wants to go car shopping.
Yeah.
And that is...
the used car market right now is fucked.
It's terrible.
I'm
There's
sorry
nothing.
to say it, but...
You go through a used car lot, and there's 3 cars on the whole lot. And even the cheapest one there, because it's like, all right, well, I want my kid to be safe, so I'd like to have some safety features. And they're like, okay, well, that's going to be $21,000. And you're like, well, nope.
Or you can, you can look around Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
One of the things I think you could probably do is like come up with whatever your budget is for it. And come up with the budget for it. And if it's money you have on hand, if you're going cash in hand.
Yeah.
But if you're going to finance that vehicle, come up with like a good amount that you're willing to put. And that might even be a good lesson for them, is like, you have a car payment and you have to pay for the insurance and whatever. I'm starting to go through that right now with like, I'm trying to keep overhead low or whatever. Just in terms of like, I also am not trying to take out a shitload of loans right now, because I think the economy could potentially collapse soon.
Yeah,
and I'm not. And I don't think I'm being crazy by saying that.
No, I think everybody's just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, and hoping it pulls out and we go like, oh, okay, maybe I got a little
that was close. Yeah,
I got a little alarmed there, but I also didn't. Yeah, I did like safe things. I wasn't like,
what?
Yeah, just because I can like I think my credit's good right now, and I know there's some things I need to take care of with my house where it's like, it's expensive. I know how much I either have the time or the money, and I spend a lot of time. I work a lot.
Yeah.
And I do comedy a lot. And I plan on keeping myself... I'm busy. I'm busy as fuck doing those things. And that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to be, is busy. And I get busy doing things I enjoy doing.
I enjoy being busy.
I've never like... there's things you should make time for. And I did. But it's also like... if you're not in a position where you have to make time for someone or something or whatever, my kid's in college, I don't, and he's not far away. It's not like he's in college in Antarctica. He's an hour and a half away. But when he wants to come home from the weekend, I'm like, yeah, I'll go pick you up, hang out. He doesn't drive, so I have to go get him. But it is also like, yeah, I got the time.
Yeah.
When he's home, I'm like, be around. Be home. And when he's working, that's when you schedule things to do. But when he's around, be around.
Yeah.
So there you go. He's off. And now I got that little bit of like, do something for me. Do something goofy. Go camping. Eat at restaurants. Go to some like goofball indie art house theater and see a foreign movie. Sight unseen. Just show up and not only that, go to like an art show. Go do stuff like that, and maybe you can find something that you have the budget to buy there that is something that, whatever starving artist, whatever local theater or whatever, go see a movie at the High Point Theater. Go see a movie, some goofball foreign movie. Go there, eat the popcorn, buy shit. Movie theaters are dying. Go to a library, get a library card, and go there. Because you don't want. Maybe you're not a big reader. I'm not a big reader. I gotta have Audible. I gotta have like audiobooks because I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna read.
Right. I have to have something to listen to.
But do that because you don't want to live in a world that doesn't have those things. And that's something that COVID started doing away with certain things where it's like, I don't like this. I strongly dislike this right now.
Yeah.
Because there is a bit of the human element to things that has sort of like evaporated. And I look and it seems like people are kind of okay with it. And I'm like, yuck. I hate it.
The only thing about that I disagree with is I hate movie theaters.
I fucking love movie theaters.
I can't.
Love it.
I used to love them. I love movies. I love watching. I love sitting down with my friends or family or whatever, and watching a good movie that you're all just like super invested in. But the thing I can't stand about movie theaters is that they've gotten so expensive, and the one
it all has.
I can only talk about the one by my house.
Yeah.
The one in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and I might even bleep out where that is because I don't want to trash
you don't want to shit on the place. You don't want to do that.
Much.
Yeah, because your reach is enough. You got that? Hey, careful! You don't want to be. You don't want to be like doing in the Marcus Theater in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Their corporate structure is so fragile.
I'm just saying. One bad podcast review.
You're like, fuck, man.
Brings the system down.
Is it the? Yeah, bleep all this out. Not to add a bunch of editing to do for you, but is it?
It is. It is.
Yeah, that guy, he seems like a gentle soul, but just by the ads that he runs on the run. So, like, I hate to see that guy, like, kind of flipping the close sign around on his last location, going like,
damn it,
damn you, Eric Russell.
Cursing.
What did I ever do to you?
Yeah, but the floors are sticky. The bathroom is gross.
Yeah.
Kids always want snacks. They're way too expensive.
Yeah.
They always buy an icy, and then you go to fill up the icy machine, and it's broken.
Yeah.
Or it just comes out not frozen or whatever, and it's like you go and you talk to them and you complain about it, like not like a Karen or whatever, but you go up and you're like, hey, my kid bought a $7 icy.
A $7 icy.
And this is just syrup. Is there any way we could fix this? And they're like, no. Well, and you're just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go screw myself.
No, I know. There's certain things like that. That's why, like, especially something like the High Point Theater here in St. Louis. Go see movies there. Go, and I'm also not saying like don't go.
Right.
I'm saying go to the Megaplex or whatever. See the blockbuster movies, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sort of like kind of in for a penny, in for a pound. Be in for the experience. I'm going to start seeing... That was one of the things that I'm starting to bring back around into my life that I'm like, this used to be something I just did just to do, is go see... So when I was in a band, like you never knew... If you had a gig, and if it was like some, local music venue that was not like... It's not a bar show necessarily, but it's like just a small local venue that had like... would put on local bands. Like, you might not know who you're playing with. You might not know who you're opening for. And then you might walk away from me like, I have a new favorite band. That happened to me several times where it's just some, like, they're like, traveling in a beat-up, shitty caravan, from Baltimore. A band called Oxes that I fucking fell in love with. I'm like, this is such weird shit. And the rest of my band members, the first time we saw them, like, they They were just like, hey, it's a Wednesday night. We got to work. We're taking off. And I was the only one that stuck around, and I saw this band. And they're so crazy, so weird, so interesting. And in terms of showmanship, goddamn did they put it on, man. They were great. Would not have had that experience if I wasn't. There was nobody else at this place. There was like 6 people in this venue seeing it. And we all, like me and these like 6 or 7 other people that stuck around, were looking at each other like, can you believe this shit?
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing. And there's nobody here. So that's one of those things I want to start going to, like, because I don't have to accommodate for anybody's schedule right now. I'm not giving my time to anybody right now. And I don't, outside of like my own sort of like, I definitely need to be writing more. I need to be doing, and just writing in general, but writing, whatever. Comedy kind of comes as it comes, I think. But live a life worth writing about. Go do places and try to like also like leave room in my budget that I'm not like, I mean, for the next month and a half probably, I'm busy with either comedy stuff or flooring side jobs or whatever that I do, where it's like, these are all kind of things I like to do and I don't mind doing them. But then there is that like, but these are all things you're producing.
Yeah.
Like, these are things you're doing. Go enjoy somebody else doing. Go enjoy, like...
I can't imagine being in a band. Because
it's great for the same reasons it's bad. And that's...
It's so hard to be in comedy and you're just a solo person and to travel and do stuff. And I can't imagine trying to organize 5 different people with instruments and sound checks and traveling.
But that is part of the... That is part of the thing. I love, if you've ever seen like a big, even like a college size marching band, or like what they call DCI, Drum Corps International, is like sort of almost like weird summer league. It's all like college age people and even some like high schools, and it's just marching band shit, but it's like high level marching band shit. The reason I love it, and I think the reason, there's certain musicals and there's certain like, in terms of like music, there's a reason I think symphonies and like, it sounds so pretentious because I'm not like a symphony guy, but there are symphonies that I love. There are like composers who have like, that's like one of my favorite pieces. There are jazz musicians, whatever. But the reason I think those big, broad, like, is the artistic endeavor of writing a book of music for a song. And it's literally like, you look down the score of something like that, and this is the conductor's music. That's every instrument. And that big of an artistic endeavor, and things have to line up. And when that many people can share a brain and line it up, and it's so precise, it's fantastic. I have such a high appreciation for what it takes to do that, because I've been in a band and not been able to do that with like 3 or 4 people.
Well,
it's tough.
No musical talent, so any of that is just impressive to me at all.
Yeah.
But have you ever been to like sometimes they'll play a movie with a live like orchestra there playing the music to
I think,
which is so much more impressive because you don't realize like you don't realize when you're watching any movie and there's music in the background, it sets
how much
the tone.
It really.
But there's so many things like
you also
a cymbal. You don't recognize a cymbal when you're watching a movie until it's somebody there waiting for the right time or whatever.
I think you also get a feel for like the actual human beings associated with like making that music.
Yeah.
There are 25 violins. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's one guy that's gotta hit a like vibration thing one time, and it's so important to that score.
The fact that the conductor can see those 5 violins and be like, number 3 is off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
I wish I had an ear for music like that, because I played music in high school, but it was very clear that I had reading problems.
Yeah,
and not just like reading problems, but reading music problems. That's why I think that's maybe why I got into jazz bass, and it's not like I was good at that, but if you knew enough to like read the chord symbols, you could kind of just like sort of half-ass it, which I was, until there was like but I knew I could read like rhythm and I could technically read music. I was just so slow at it, and I was also a really slow reader. It might be like undiagnosed something,
Yeah.
man, where it's like,
That's how I found out. I didn't find
yeah,
out till I was in my like 30s that I have like I have a little bit of dyslexia. You know what I mean?
right.
And I was like, I just thought I was really stupid.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
like all my teachers were like, "Why aren't you
I
getting
remember,
this?"
yeah,
And
I
I was
remember
just
the
like,
first time.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
I remember the first time I remember the first time I read for fun.
Uh huh.
And I mean, what a game changer to go from like the self consciousness, the like I'm an idiot,
Yeah.
I can't read good,
Yeah.
to I just read a book, so clearly I can. And that was like, that was in my 20s. That was it was in my 20s. It was my buddy TJ Bross. Shout out to TJ for introducing me to reading.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a book called Bomb the Suburbs, and again like the art you're taking in at that time in your
Uh-huh.
life, where it really had an effect on me. And I've had that with a couple books that I half read and half listened to recently. Whereas like recently, and I'm never gonna not be able to think about it. First of all, I mean they're amazing, but it's also like the reason I read them, and the little bit of like this, maybe this author, maybe these books are never not going to be important to me, and it's always going to remind me of this time in my life, and maybe like taking a turn somewhere, or making a change, or whatever you're doing in your life, or maybe it's just something that happened, maybe and unfortunately, like if it's like this is horrible, but if it's something that's like trauma associated, or if
Yeah.
it's something like when I found out, and I'm not trying to, I've never finished the thing about my ex-wife, by the way, but like I remember the music I was listening to when all of that was going down, when I was finding out, things that she was doing, or finding
Yeah.
out these horrible things. I remember the music I was listening to. I remember really, really well. And not all of them are sad songs. Some of them are just really like cool, like songs that I like. But I had to start turning a corner and stop listening to those songs. And now they have this weird effect on me.
Yeah. They're like
Where-
time stamped
They're time stamps,
to a
but
part
it's
of your
also
life.
that
Yeah.
like instead of giving me a weird like unsettling, they give me this weird like, yeah, it's fine.
Mhm.
It's like a weird like I can listen to those songs and just sort of be like, I'm a big fan of the rapper Prof right now. I'm a big fan of like, and there are also songs. I've been made fun of this before, but it never hurts my feelings. There are like songs that I listen to that always kind of make me cry, and sometimes it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
just the song. Sometimes it's a live version of the song, and it's not always like sad songs.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like pretty uplifting songs,
Yeah.
but they're like songs that I have to like put aside for a while,
Oh yeah.
so it never doesn't have that effect on me.
So
I like that it works. It's like getting a tolerance to medicine or something. You don't want to build up a tolerance to something that
yeah, is
has the
like
effect on you.
has that release.
Yeah.
Because I'm a crier.
Yeah.
I'll I wish that I could be this big tough guy that's just like stoic and
lean into it.
brooding
I don't
and
have,
stuff like that. But no, I am like just the little things will just make me like well up, and it's a little unnerving when you see someone my size start
welling
crying. It's like, is everything okay, man? You're
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's great actually.
I've
But there's
had to say like a couple times in the past little while and been like, I do this.
yeah.
Like, and that's my excuse is like, hey, we talked about this. I'm gonna do it.
Do you ever fake a sneeze just to wipe your eyes a little bit?
Nah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Jesus. Oh, man.
Fuck that,
I'll
man.
do that
It's
sometimes.
I believe I have the same attitude about guilty pleasures and music and food and all that shit. No.
There's a song.
The harder you fight it, and the harder you're like, no, I'm not crying. Be like,
I'm the older I get, the more comfortable I am with just being like, yeah, it got me.
Yeah.
It got me. But there's a song by the Killers, which is
Again,
and
I'm gonna listen to your story, but and that's another
everybody,
one of those weird memories where like,
everybody has mixed opinions on them. But there's a song called
they're amazing live. They're amazing live, but their
what
singer
is
does
it?
this weird like he has this weird like. It seems like he's doing this gig in like a mega church. That's the vibe I got from him.
I don't like watching. Yeah, I don't
Their
like
drummer's
watching the
amazing.
band. I don't like watching the band because it's like, I don't. What if he's
He does
weird
this
and
weird like
takes me out of the moment?
they were great.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan, but they were one of those bands that people were always like, "Oh, their drummer's fantastic." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's the Killers." I kind of thought like he's an amazing drummer.
So they have a song called "All These Things That I've Done," and there's a part where they repeat over and over again. I've got soul, but I'm not a soldier.
Yeah.
And one of the big things in the Marines is that Marines hate to be called soldiers.
Really?
Yeah, it's the soldiers are in the Army.
Uh,
Marines are Marines, and they
Okay.
want to be called Marines. And it's one of those like super annoying things when you go out in town and people are like, "Oh, are you a soldier?" And you're like, "I'm a Marine." You know, like it's just annoying. It's just a pet peeve.
it's one of those
to us,
it's one of those things that
right?
can probably comes off as douchey sometimes. Be like, "Oh, are you a soldier?" And be like, "No, I'm a Marine."
Right. And now I don't correct people. Now I'm just like, I what? Yeah,
Culture,
yeah.
but
Sure. You know?
I also have a high degree of appreciation for like the, you know,
But it's just that part of
If
that
that's
song.
yeah.
That's like, I've got soul, but I'm not a soldier. There was one night where it was me and like 20 of my buddies, and we were, top 5 drunkest I've ever been. And we're just screaming that part, like jumping up and down, like dancing. And when it comes on, I think about that, and it just like, it all comes
Yeah.
back up. And I'm like, ugh, and we'll be driving around, driving with our kids in the car, and all of a sudden they'll just be like, "Is Dad crying yet?
Yeah.
Is Dad crying?" And it's like, "Yeah, Dad's crying. All right, Dad. Sorry, Dad had a life before you were born, and this brings back memories of that.
Yeah.
Sorry."
And it's not always like the crying and the like welling up and the tear or whatever, the stuff like that isn't always because of a bad memory.
No.
It really isn't. Sometimes it was just like that weird like I've had it several times in life where I'm like, "God damn, I'm so happy." You do that shit. I did that shit with my kid where it's like,
yeah,
"God damn, I'm proud of my boy.
Yeah,
I'm so proud."
Ooh. yeah.
And I'm just not one of those people like, don't fight it. Lean into the person you are. It's okay. And especially if it's something, and I also say this being like, unless it's obviously something bad, if it keeps you from
Right.
relationships, if it's a barrier to you and positive things in your life, by all means, fix your shit.
Yeah, right.
But it also is, like I said, like after, there's like a, definitely after the divorce, and I try to feel like this will be how I proceed in life. No, give yourself time to not like fight it. Be sad, be angry, be whatever, but that's yours.
Yeah.
That's on you to deal with. Don't spill it onto other people. You got friends you can talk to about it, but don't have it be something where like, hey, don't be that guy. Don't act out of character.
Yeah.
Don't be a dildo. Don't do shitty things just because like, well, I'm going through something, so I get to be shitty.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've sort of forgiven it and been like, well, you got to understand they're going through a rough time. I did it with a guy I was working with for a while. And I did feel bad for him because I think he is largely a misunderstood person. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he has some bad tendencies, and I think he has a real hard time like I've said this about people and it sounds like an insult. He has complex emotions and a simple mind.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So his tools for dealing with it sometimes are pretty base. They're they can be pretty rough. And it's hard to like be with somebody who's behaving shittily.
Yeah.
And then be like, "Hey, he's going through a tough patch. He's got some and man, but I also think he's one of those guys, and I haven't talked to him in years. But I also remember like completely recognizing that.
Yes. Yes.
and just being like, I feel like that a lot, but maybe like just my coping mechanisms are different, but from how you were raised or whatever. I just don't turn it outwards.
I was like, when I was like 18, I it's like I hit pause on my personality and like my personal growth and like getting to know my emotions and everything until I was probably about 28. And then that was when I was like, hey, maybe I should not be who I was as a teenager anymore. You know, maybe I should
Yeah.
mature a little bit. And
I
I remember thinking, like, somebody told me, they were like, yeah, well, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
a great.
you gotta figure out how to use
You
other
need more
tools.
tools. That's
Yeah.
what people say about therapy a lot. And I will also say, like, um, it sounds weird. Like, I'm not anti-therapy. I know
Right.
people in therapy, and I hope they're getting like positive, constructive things. I know a lot more people who probably need it and can't afford it.
Yeah.
And it
that's-
seems I don't think there's a social barrier to it like there used to be. I think it's more like that shit is expensive.
right.
And I've looked into it for myself because I don't think I don't need it, but I also have that where it's like I don't not work on it on my own, and I know it's probably there's sort of like there are plenty of resources out there. There's a YouTube channel for everything,
Yeah.
brother. You can work on yourself with like, and it's free, and it is a little bit like. You know, it's not the same thing as like it's not bespoke, it's not tailored to you or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But you also don't. I know people in therapy who are, you know, and it's not like that is a thing. That is like, yeah, work on yourself, but don't go to therapy. Tell people you're working on yourself and be that same dickhead.
Yeah. Right.
There is. The work is really tough, and when you know there are changes you need to make in your life, and it's something you got to deal with, it's hard work. And when there are definitely like, you know,
Uh-huh.
like you, like me, whatever, when you know that there are things like, this is something I need to keep an eye on. This is something that's not like, it's not keeping me from having like quality friendships and relationships
Uh-huh.
and sort of being like, and again, like when things, bad things, good things, whatever, I think you gotta like, I said this, and I believe this is true in friendships, work, career stuff, whatever. When any kind of relationship goes bad, give it an autopsy. Figure out what went wrong. Why did this thing die?
Yeah. What
And
happened?
did you kill it?
Yeah.
And owning up to like whatever percentage of your fault this shit is something we should be able to like objectively like, yeah, I did things.
I would argue
Even
that,
if they're not like on the
Yeah.
surface bad things, like I did things to make this go bad. Even if it wasn't like on the surface a bad thing. I
that's
didn't read a situation right.
so. I'm a big fan of therapy. I've done it solo and I've done it with someone, and I would argue that doing it with someone else in the room is important because
With somebody else, like with your,
you can either do so. Like my wife and I will go see a counselor
I think
just
that's
to check
good.
in, but you can also do it, with your kid or with, someone who knows you.
Yeah.
Because then there's somebody there to call you on your bullshit. Because
Yes.
your therapist isn't there. So you can say, like, I've been much better. I've been doing this and this and this. But if
In real
someone's
life-
there who's with you all the time, they can be like, have you?
And-
Because I
and-
haven't seen you. You're like, yeah, you're right.
In real life, you are just like, I do. It's weird. Like, I don't know. It's not a box you're checking to say like I go to therapy. I'm working on myself.
Right.
And I do think it's sort of one of those weird like, it's a weird tester question. And I remember thinking like, it was somebody I was dating asked me what I thought about couples counseling, and it was like pretty early on where I was like, damn, already.
Mm-hmm.
But my answer was pretty simple. I was like, of course, I think if it's something you need, you need. And it's not a matter of like that's something like, it shouldn't be something where it's like you're getting approached by your spouse, like, we need to go to counseling. I'm like, damn, do we?
Oh,
What's happening? Like you should A, be aware enough to know that this is coming. B, not have a partner that's like hiding shit from you, I guess.
Yeah.
But my ex-wife at some point had asked me to go to couples, and this is sort of my answer. I'm like, the attitude's got to be right, whether you're going to like some kind of therapy or counseling by yourself, or with a couple, or with whatever. Go into it with the right kind of attitude, and this isn't like if you're going into it with a spouse or a significant other, this isn't a stick you're going to hit them with.
Right.
This is something like, hey, there's clearly like some signals are getting mixed up. We're having
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I also don't think it's a bad thing for like a relatively healthy relationship to just like, especially if you know you're somebody who has a hard time communicating or being like misunderstood. Like sometimes you're communicating in a way that's not like it's not getting through. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing about like love languages and stuff. Like you could think,
Yeah.
oh, I'm showing you love, but it's not how you
Yeah.
want to be loved, Like
I really say, and this is something I'll probably never back off of. Is like it's also not an original Scott James thought because I heard it somewhere. I heard it from a YouTube video probably. So like,
Yeah.
But you love. A lot of people have the tendency to love how they want to be loved.
Yes.
Even if that's not how their partner needs to be loved. But I also think by that point, if you're in this stage in a relationship where you're like, and I deal with this sometimes with my kid where it's like, that's how I wanted to be loved when I was your age.
Yeah.
That's how I wanted, and that's the things I really loved. Like my Uncle Mark would do shit with me, and when my stepdad came into the picture, they would do shit with me where I was like, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted this, like my mom did her best, my grandma did her best, but I wanted like a guy that was into guy shit and wanted to do boy stuff to like take an interest in me and give a shit about what I was, interested in. And I try to do that with my son, and he's just so like laid back and low key, and like it takes a lot for him to be like, woo, I'm having a great time. And he just doesn't, I don't think he needs that like I needed it.
Yeah.
So I think the things that he appreciates and the things that have him go like, I'm being loved right now. This is my dad. I don't think he requires the same thing I required. And by that, like, you love how he thinks. You're filling a void that you had. Or maybe not even filling a void. You're just doing the things that feel good to you. And it's a hard thing to suss out sometimes. This might not be what feels good to them. That's tough. And especially if it makes perfect sense to you.
Yeah. That was a huge thing for me, is that I had to realize that I was showing love how I wanted to be loved.
Yeah.
Not how she wanted to be loved.
And
she would say things like, I just don't feel like, I don't know, I'm not feeling love from you or whatever. And I would go up and
it's
like
heartbreaking.
touch her boob. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh,
Right.
see? Yeah,
See what I'm doing?
I love you. Yeah, see? Look,
This is
physical
how I-
touch. Yeah.
I would
and
have
she'd be
to
like,
do it.
no, I clean the litter box, do the dishes. Then I feel, and I'm like, oh.
See, that type of shit, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Because that is one of those things where like with my marriage, and I never finished what I was saying about that.
And you
That
got
is
some
like,
dates
I
to
trail
plug.
off.
Yeah.
There's no telling. By the way, I'm going to plug my dates.
Yeah, by the way,
I'm
I
going to get
got
to it. So there are just like certain, what's a good way to put this? So my ex-wife, like I just hung out with her, and for a reason. I was getting ready to take my kid back to school, and I took him over to visit her. She was in the hospital for some shit that she's still dealing with, which is like does sort of fall into the category of like, whew, that's another thing to add to my list of shit I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
But I did, and at the same time, I had hurt my back. So I was like, well, I'll take him, I'll drop him off, and I'll just walk around. She lives in Soulard, so like there's 100 places I could walk to. The weather's nice, I'll walk, I'll have a drink, have a meal, whatever, and I'll pick pick him up when they're done hanging out. Well, by the time I had made those plans, I had hurt my back, and I was like, I'm not walking anywhere, man. My back was crazy fucked up. And she was like, well, you can come in and hang out. And she had some friend over there. She also was like immobilized. So she had a friend over there helping out. I chit chatted, hung out.
Yeah.
It's fine. Didn't do a whole lot of like, don't talk about anything heavy. We're just catching up. Oh, this happened. Well, then like a week later, and it was one of those goofy things that I was like, I'm not doing that stupid shit. What are you talking about, lady? Boundaries. But she called me. Whatever. She called me and was like, "Hey, I don't have anyone to help me. I'm almost bedridden."
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't. She could get up and around a little bit, but it was really tough. And her man tours for a living. Like he's like a lighting guy that gets on like touring. So he tours for a living. That's the bread and butter. He needs to make that money.
Yeah.
He's touring. And he's lucky enough that he's coming home a couple days a week.
Yeah.
And he can and keep that gig. And you just, kind of run out of friends, I guess, that can come over and like sit with you all day. And she was like, I have no one else to come over here, and I'm a fall risk, and I have to take this medicine, and it makes me woozy, and I can't fall. I can't be here by myself. And I was like, I just dropped the kid off at college, and I was going through that, like, pouty, like, God damn, man. And I had things, kind of scheduled.
Yeah.
Like as quick as I could possibly get them to be like, I don't just want to sit in my house and be lonely. I'm going to think about, I just kind of know me like that. Like get busy, hang out with your friends, have gigs scheduled, have something, like take more walks with your dog. I can't take walks with my dog, by the way. She's terrible on a leash. But
Yeah.
do like something, like and my neighborhood's not great for walking. But she asked, and she was really upset. She was crying. And I was like, and again, it's a boundaries thing. Like, look, I'm not like angry anymore or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like it's actually worse than because she's like early on and not even not so early on. Like within the past year, she was like, I know you hate me and all this shit. I'm like, it's worse. I am indifferent. It's worse than she thinks, but it's also not like that's a better place to be around somebody like that because it's like. I don't have any like I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I don't have like whatever happened. And like I said, did me a favor. I wasn't going to leave. I was going to stay unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really when I started that last year we were together. I really started being in a bad place, like in a really funky like I need help. I need therapy. I need whatever. And a lot of it was because I was unhappy. She was unhappy, and she wanted to go to and I just knew that we were both unhappy. But part of I can tell you what's making me unhappy is that I'm constantly working. I'm constantly putting out fires. I constantly come home. I'm hungry. I'm dirty. I'm tired. I'm not pursuing comedy the way I want to. And the house is fucking dirty. And the litter box is full, and the dog needs to go out as soon as I get home, and the dishes need done before I can cook myself dinner. And there was one time, and I would ask her, could you, and there was times where she was like, well, I'll turn the oven on for you. And there was a time or two where she like microwaved something for me while I was in the shower. And I'm also not taking away from that, where it was like, damn, I came home, I got in the shower, and I had like a hot microwave thing. And at the time I was like, thank you. This means something.
Thank you so much.
But it was also like our house smelled bad. It was those weird things like old dishwater, stuff like that, where I was like, I know our house smells bad. Can you please help me? And there were times where I would come home. There was a time where I came home and I was like, holy shit, the house is clean. The dishes are done. I went right into like after working like however many hours that day, came home and like made myself something. And then my son came around and I forget what it was. I think my ex-wife was actually working. She was working or whatever. And my kid came around the corner and was like, "Hey, I cleaned the house today, just to let you know." And I got really, it was the mix of like the thing where I was like, God, that's a lot to do in a day.
Yeah.
She went out of her way. That's a lot to do, and helped me out. And it made me feel so good. A clean house.
Yeah.
And it was like not even, by the way, clean relative to my house.
Yeah.
And like, it was vacuumed.
Yes.
It was vacuumed, and there was some random, like I was still like clutter or whatever, but it was vacuumed. It smelled good. A candle had clearly been lit. But the dishes were done, the litter box, the trash was taken out, shit like that. It was my kid. My kid
Yeah.
heard me talking about it and being upset about it. He cleaned the whole house.
That's I mean.
And it was the flip of like, she didn't.
Mm.
But he did. And just picking up on intuitively, I never told him like, buddy, you need to clean the house.
Right.
You need to do this. You need to do this. Because it's hurting my feelings
Yeah.
that nobody will do it. And it's not that nobody will do it. It's that the person you're supposed to be getting help from. I was working, the person that's supposed to help and support and give you some kind of encouragement and shit like that just wasn't doing it. All I heard was like, you're not giving me what I need. And I was like, what the fuck? How can I possibly? There's not enough time in the day.
Yeah, it's never done.
And that is like sort of moving forward in like a recent relationship. Like, there's like tough times that people go through, and you're like, hey, I know what made me feel like $1 million. I was like, I'll come over and do your dishes.
Yeah.
So you got more time to deal with what you're deling with. And it really was stuff like that where like, I know what was like game changing for me. And even to this day, when I come home and my kid's like, yeah, I cleaned the kitchen, I'm like, it puts me in such a good mood.
Yeah.
It gives me this like, that's an hour of my time that my kid just
freed up. Yeah.
Freed up for me. That's the thing you never get back. You never get it back. You never get the time back. And he just, with his own time, purchased an hour of my time.
No amount of money buys a second of time. That's what somebody told me one time. And I was like, that's
I think working girls would disagree. I think there technically is an hourly.
There we go. Yeah. Touche. Well done. Well, I've kept you here for 2.5 hours. So why don't we wrap
I need to plug my dates. That's right.
If you want to plug your social media and your upcoming dates.
Also didn't. We need to go, but I also still didn't finish the thing about my ex-wife. I went over there and I helped and I hung out and whatever. It was fine. And she said something about like, oh, I bet you have a ton of material about the divorce and all that shit. Oh, I kind of was
anymore.
Like, I thought about it. I thought about putting on like, I've got a video somewhere on my phone of me doing that material and killing. But I was just like, yeah, I did. But the moment passed. And I think she sort of understood where I was like, I just don't think about it much anymore.
Yeah.
It meant a lot. It hurt a lot at the time, but... And I have those memories, and I can still be like swayed by those memories and that music and whatever, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, we're past it. It was a portion of your life. It happened, and
I had good time talking shit.
Yeah,
I mean, really good time talking shit on stage.
I think that
I had some good sets, man. That was all that
you
material.
Had some great sets. I remember seeing you do that bit in particular one time where I think you even like walked out onto the tables at the Funny Bone.
I used to do that a lot.
Destroying. You were absolutely destroying. And I mean, even the comics in the back were laughing and everyone's enjoying it. And you get off stage and like, but I was still like, I'm sorry that happened. Like that's such a great bit. It's so
Yeah.
awesome,
It,
but also
it was,
like, hey,
it came from a place of hurt. And don't get me wrong, there was a couple times that I would do that, and who knows? May have been that night. May have
yeah,
been. This happened a couple times doing that material, where, I mean, it went well. And sometimes it didn't go well or whatever. It happens. It was, newish material. It's heavy material. It's on the surface, very serious material that I'm trying to be silly about. But there was a couple times that I got in my car after doing that material and just knowing that I was still going through it. I mean, I'm still processing it, and I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, comedy is like therapy. It's not.
no, it's
Okay,
not.
it is a good way to sort of like catalog
Yeah.
and sort of like account for your feelings, and it is task oriented because you're trying to write jokes about it. So it does, in the processing phase of like whatever you need to do to work through, that can be valuable, but it's not therapy. It doesn't scratch the same itch in your brain. It's different. But in terms of processing it, there were, and like having almost a weird like getting in my car, having a great set, and getting a little bit of like, man, hey, good job, Scott, for turning that into something positive for you. There was a couple times getting in my car, I had some weird, like, I got really bad nauseous where I like had to pull over and throw up. But it wasn't like, it also was like an oddly like a good feeling. Like it was a weird, like, just like, kind of like bawling in my car on the way home, just like a weird, like overexcitement. It wasn't like it was like that same thing where you say like, you gotta throw up.
Yeah.
To get like the booze out of your system or something like that. It was that type of feeling. It was almost like I could see the like clouds parting a little bit and sort of like get the haze out of my eyes. Yeah.
I think
Felt great.
Yeah, it also from your perspective doing those jokes, you were on the moral high, you had the high ground. So
yeah.
It was like one of those things like, well, oh, this guy's talking about his marriage. Like, he's like, yeah, but I'm still the good guy,
Yes, on the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also, again, give it an autopsy. Maybe it's 4% of that was my fault. Maybe it's 20%.
Yeah.
Maybe it's whatever. But you don't like, nobody comes out of a situation like that and is like, I did nothing wrong.
That's what
you did. It's not that you did something wrong. You did something terrible. It's that you did something that wasn't working.
I would say anything outside of physical violence is always like, well, you did something,
Yeah.
Like if you're in a relationship and you're being beaten, nobody deserves to be struck, or like hit by their significant other. See,
there's
but even then,
comedy.
There's times where you're like,
I 100% agree with you, and I've had.
Yes, I understand. Okay, so I was just the way I was raised. You should never hit a woman.
There's a good Bill Burr joke that I
right, exactly. But there's also times where it's like I've seen women act a certain way, and I'm like, okay, all right.
I mean, my ex-wife has hit me before.
Yeah.
And it was never like, I told somebody that, and she got really upset. I was like, well.
Why are you upset?
It didn't hurt that bad.
Yeah.
She was like, well, that's physical abuse. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got it, but it also, like, everything leading up to that hurt worse.
Mm.
And it's not really, she also wasn't trying to knock me out. She was also just like, the physical, like, manifestation of your frustration with me is just a part of your hurt feelings. And it's not like, yeah, she didn't like actually, she did that when she close fisted me. There may have been drinking.
Yeah.
And I just remember having that, like, a stone cold, like, I think I actually said, we don't hit.
That's so funny. We don't hit. No. Yeah. I've been struck But I also have shot my mouth off because I mean, you and I are comics, and there are times where something happens, and you have an opinion, and you just say something,
Yeah.
just not just
Sometimes you think, you know what this situation needs? My joke about it.
my joke, and just like, and you're just like, okay, I realize I crossed the line. You're right.
Not
Yeah,
the moment.
not this was not the time to do that, and I apologize. I'm sorry, and you just, but at the same time, like, I'm thinking about it more from the male perspective of like, if you're that angry, you should just leave, like just walk
Yeah.
away, or just get in your car and
Yeah,
drive, or whatever.
it's definitely a different stink on it when a dude does it. It's not
Yeah,
you, and obviously, like I also 100% agree with you. Like people shouldn't hit each other. Put yourself there. I just witnessed like a really bad argument between what I found out as I was like walking. We were walking directly behind a couple that was just straight up like she was like going after him. Fuck you. You're an
yeah,
asshole. You're a piece of shit. You can't blood it. And I like sort of recognized the look on this guy's face of like, we were in public, by the way. We
yeah.
were at the Botanical Gardens for the Japanese festival. It was busy. There was
Mm-hmm.
lots of people there. And she was not being shy about all these things she was saying to him. And I was like, well, if she's not shy about it out in public around strangers, what do you think this car ride looks like? And then she was also pregnant, which I was like, whew, the thoughts going through his head
Yeah.
are like, but I can't believe we kept it. I mean, he's got to be having these moments of like,
Well,
but then like they were yelling at each other like that at one point, and I was like, okay, this is him. I've had enough of this shit. You don't get to talk to me like that. And I don't know what situation led up to it, but I'm like, this right here is a great example of if you're willing to talk to each other like this, just go your separate ways.
yeah.
Because if this is how you'll talk to each other and treat each other in public, I've never been like, even in fighting in relationships, I've never been somebody that needed to say like, I just always shut down because I'm like, say your piece, but say it in a way that's productive.
Yeah.
Like saying something like the first thing that leaves your mouth might be like the shittiest possible thing to say because you're hurt and you want to hurt. Don't be like that.
Yeah.
Take it.
Well, we're in Ballpark Village. I see people,
Oh.
especially
Oh.
at night when the bars are
I
closing
don't even
down.
like the fucking Cardinals. Fuck you.
Yeah, yeah. And
Why don't you fucking marry him then?
I saw, it was probably like 2 weeks ago, something like that. I saw this guy and this girl, and they were walking to their car, and the whole way she was no 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 no, and he turned around at one point, and I saw it flash across his face where he's like, I could end this really quick, but he
Yeah.
like you could see he looked at her, and he was just like, and he went over and he got a security guard, and he said, she's harassing me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around her. I'm getting in my car to go home. I'm going to call an Uber. Will you make sure she gets in it?
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted
What a
to go up and
gentlemanly-
like shake his hand and be like,
So
congratulations, sir. That is
when
the
I was
best way you could have done that.
when I was kicking my wife, I say kicking out. I was asking her to leave. Before I did it.
Uh-huh.
And the situation is a little like she was on her way back from Las Vegas, so I had the house to myself to pack her things or whatever. But I called the police, like as I was okay. I'm going to pick her up from the airport now. We're coming back home. Her car's loaded with her stuff. I called the police and was like, hey, can you just have? I was like, look, here's the situation. I don't know how she's going to react. I don't know.
What's going to happen? Yeah.
Yeah, all I know is that I'm not looking for anybody to get in trouble. I want her to just accept that this is it, and I'm asking you to leave, and you should. You're not welcome. That type of thing. And again, we just hang out, and it's not like. But at the time, I was like, I don't want this to turn into some like windows breaking shit like that.
Yeah.
That's incredibly unproductive.
Yeah.
And they basically, the cops basically told me, like, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do. And I was just like, just be like, and again, I don't want her to get in trouble. I don't want me to get in trouble. I don't want anybody to, like, wind up in handcuffs. What I want is for, all right, let's go. Let's
Just
part ways.
Everybody needs to know this is serious.
Yeah.
We're not resolving it tonight. You do have
Because-
to leave. But
Nobody's
shit has to be on fire.
It's a breakup. It's a shitty situation. Feelings are going to be hurt, and those feelings are so raw, and especially the way things were ending and the way things are or whatever. And it's a lot of history. The thing that she couldn't do, and I understand it because it's I trust me, I understand this inclination is like, just let it go, walk away. That's all we got to do. All we got to do is sign the papers, and if you're not wanted, to have your hurt feelings, but you're not wanted.
Yeah.
You just go.
Yeah.
Sucks.
And with that, you want to plug your dates and your
Yeah.
We had 2 hours and 40 minutes. This is
fucking A, man.
Yeah.
All right, settle down, Rogan. I also I got to start doing these things. Like, if I'm going to do something like this, I got to start saying, like, we will talk about one topic. Because I will trail off from topic to topic. And I whatever.
That's verbose. The whole point. That's the whole point of all of I mean, if you look at any of these questions, they're all, they're just designed to bring up just things that people can, like, spin off, like.
Which show is the best? Scared Straight, To Catch a Predator, Cops, and Cheaters.
I'm not gonna lie, I scrolled to that one on accident. No,
but my eyes were like,
yeah. It's just, but basically all of these.
Best TV dad, and you have fucking Cosby. Really, dude?
If we're separating him as a person
art from the artist,
okay. Dr. Huxtable, fantastic dad.
Yeah, but
top tier dad.
You just got to leave it alone now. I'm gonna say Bernie Mac anyway.
Someone pointed out to me the other day.
Bernie Mac, you want to know why?
Wasn't actually a dad. He was an uncle.
Exactly. Also, Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
But he was a father to his kids.
Yeah.
Bernie Mac, he didn't have to do that. That's why he's number one. When you don't have to. That's why stepdads are so.
Right.
A good stepdad is like, I don't have to do this. I didn't have to.
I've always said that growing up, or, maybe not growing up, but before I had kids, I wanted to be like these two, Phil Dunphy and Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely more like these two, Bernie Mac and Dan Connors.
Yeah.
Because Dad might come home and have a beer. You know what I mean? Dr. Huxtable and Uncle Phil, they didn't drink in front of the kids, but Dan might have gotten a little loose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's
Bernie
a couple
Mac
times
might have been like, you better get your ass in your, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't put on any white gloves to handle his,
There's a couple times on Roseanne, Dan Connor. By the way, a family I, for the most part, should have related to, but I was like, oh man, dude, they have a house and 2 parents and. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, they're supposed to be like poor white trash in that show. But even that, I was a little bit like,
yeah.
Are they, though? I mean.
They've got a 4-bedroom house.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I was like,
she's a waitress, and he, was he a mechanic?
He was a contractor. He was a drywall contractor. And then later, they were both entrepreneurs, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They had several small businesses.
Oh, yeah. Over the years.
Dude, they're doing great, the Connors.
I know.
Until that one thing.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should go.
Yeah. Okay. You're Scott James it's at Scott James.
Yeah, man. I got to look it up. I'm terrible at, look me up on Instagram. It's Scotty James 81. Scotty with a Y, SCOTTYJAMES 81. That's Instagram. I don't do Twitter.
Yeah.
And I'm on Facebook. Either. If find me on Facebook.
If you want. Yeah.
Where you can see me posting about the same shows 14 different times.
Yeah.
Because I barely know how the shit works.
And check out Comic Invasion on I just saved it the other day. Pictures.
Is it comicinvasion.tv?
Comicinvasion.tv.
Yeah.
It'll be airing everywhere from Knoxville, Tennessee, Louisville, Kentucky, Terre Haute. Okay. all the way up through Davenport, Kansas City, St. Joseph, Joplin, Springfield, ABC, CBS, My TV, CW, basically anywhere. If you have antenna, if you have a free channel, it'll probably be on there. So check it out, and then you can check us both out on the 20th will be in Clarksville, Tennessee, and the 21st will be in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So come out and see those shows.
And the 22nd will be in. Yeah, say the 22nd too. That's a Sunday show. We need to. Yeah, we gotta have that happening.
Well, we're doing
22nd is in Murray, Kentucky.
Yeah, the axe throwing circuit we're on. We're doing all the major axe throwing companies.
Yeah.
All right.
Come see how comedy and axe throwing mixes.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll
might
see.
catch a stray.
I mean, it'll be a great show, but if they got me in front of a target, like in somebody like, brrr,
yeah,
like, oh.
This is flashbacks to that the Johnny Carson bit. Do you remember that? It was like one of his first shows ever. He brought someone on to throw an axe. I didn't think you were
that old to know Johnny Carson bits. Come on. Holy shit.
I'm not some millennial. What Gen Xer? What are we on now? I don't know. But thanks for coming out, man. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll see you next week.